Hello there, welcome back to PhysioBeast. Remember how in this video I said, usually it's the back because everybody's back hurts? Well, that wasn't an exaggeration. The prevalence of back pain or low back pain, however we're going to call it, in population is about 88%. So that means that statistically pretty much everybody has experienced or will experience this kind of pain at some point of their life. And I don't think I have to convince anybody that that is true. We all know how common and irritating an issue back pain is. And just to be clear, we're talking about the so-called non-specific back pain. So that means without a specific cause that you can pinpoint. We're not talking about acute injuries or spinal fractures or tumors in the spinal canal or other specific conditions that are diagnosable. We're talking about cases where without any obvious or apparent reason, your back simply hurts. Maybe because of fatigue, maybe because of overuse, maybe you're just old, or maybe just because you wake up one day and your back hurts. So pretty much everybody knows what I'm talking about. Because it's such a big and common problem, you can find tons and tons of information about it on the internet and other media. Some of this information is of better quality, some worse, some straight up contradict each other. You can find information such as that there really is no effective method of treating back pain, which is not true. You can find information that studies haven't found any method to be particularly effective, and that includes core strengthening exercises, which in some way is kind of technically true, but I want to talk about studies a little bit later. You can find whole multi-hour series of videos made by doctors and physical therapists where they analyze multiple studies and try to explain the exact mechanism of back pain in detail and so on. And while those presentations aren't necessarily incorrect, but they are very impractical. To know the exact mechanism behind pain may be an interesting fact to a clinician, but to an average person, this doesn't say anything. You still don't know what should you do and what to avoid. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm going to tell you, straight and simple, all in one place, everything that you as a patient need to know about back pain. What probably causes it, what can you do to avoid it, and what you shouldn't do. And I'm going to do it in about 10 minutes. So let's get started. The first thing we need to mention is that about 4 million years ago, one of our ancestors came up with an idea to get up from his old fours and stand up straight on two legs. And that's how I've been moving around since. Our back had come to be under compression force, while before it used to be under a moment load. Now 4 million years sounds like a long time, but in the context of process of evolution, it's not that long. And when we look at our spine anatomy, it is still better adapted to a quadrupedal gait, like a dog or a horse. The second important thing is that because of the rapid development of civilization and medicine, our lifespan increased significantly within a relatively short period of time. Just a couple thousand years ago, a person who has reached the age of 40 had pretty much been considered an elder. So again, circling back to the slow process of evolution, our spines are not very well adapted, perhaps not yet, to maintaining the upright position for many decades of our lives. Pretty early, they start to simply wear out. And we see that on the imaging tests, such as X-ray or MRI. Every person over the age of 35, pretty much without exception, already has some detectable degenerative changes of their spine, within the vertebrae and intervertebral discs. On some people, those changes are more advanced than others, but nonetheless, every one of us at this stage of our life already has some of those degenerative changes. But what's important though, is that those changes, their severity, do not correlate with symptoms of back pain, as we often see people with heavily degenerated spines who are asymptomatic, they have no pain, as well as people with very minor degenerative changes who suffer very severe back pain. So keep that in mind. If you're over 35 years of age, your back hurts, and your doctor orders an MRI of your spine, it's gonna show some degenerative changes of the spine. That's a given. Those changes that you'll see may be the cause of your pain, but they very well may not be. And this is consistent with statistics regarding lower back surgeries. In 1/3 of the cases, such a surgery is successful, so that means the pain is reduced or gone. In 1/3 of the cases, there is no change, and in 1/3 of the cases, the pain actually gets worse. So the odds are not in your favor. And another statistic also shows that a person who has underwent back surgery will very likely have another one in the future. Surgery should only be considered as the absolute last resort, usually when you're experiencing some neurological symptoms as well, such as loss of strength or sensation in your legs or loss of bladder control. So to summarize this part, our spines wear out because of the long life we spend in upright position. Degenerative changes and pain are unfortunately a natural occurrence that goes with it. But what can we do about it? Let's put it like this. If you have a degenerated back, which you have if you're over 35, you're gonna have a degenerated back. There is no way around it. The question is, do you want to have a weak degenerated back or a strong degenerated back? Because that is something you can do something about. And if you've watched this video, for example, you already know the correct answer to this question. Strengthening your back will not make degenerative changes go away, obviously. But the stronger your back and all the muscles and structures supporting it, the more resistant it is to strains and overuse, it is more tolerant of stress and overwork, and therefore less susceptible to pain. Now, a strong back isn't completely immune to pain. It can also sometimes hurt, but it's much less likely. It'll definitely hurt less and less often. Now, how to strengthen your back? Through proper strength training, obviously, but in this case in particular, with the deadlift. The deadlift, performed correctly, is hands down the best, most effective exercise which allows you to strengthen your back. But not just your back. It is in fact an excellent exercise that strengthens the whole body, particularly your legs and hips. That is of importance because strong legs and hips are going to further support the function of your back. The deadlift is your #1 priority. Learn how to do it correctly and get it stronger. Train it regularly at least once a week and gradually go up in weight because that is how you get stronger. More on that in this video. Your second priority when it comes to exercises is the squat. Train your squat as well, get it stronger, if you can afford it time-wise and in terms of recovery. Exercises such as the press or the chin-up are also going to be helpful, but they're not the most important. Now, why deadlifts and squats? Firstly, because they don't just strengthen your back, but a lot of other important body parts as well. And secondly, which is probably the most important, is that they train your back in isometric position, which means you're trying to maintain straight and stable spine throughout the lift. The function of your back in these exercises is to keep the torso straight and stable while you're lifting the weight. This is a very natural way for your back to operate under a load, and contrary to what it may seem, a very safe way, even under a heavy load. Isometric is a type of loading to which the back is able to adapt very well, and that is why it is the best way of effectively strengthening it. And this brings us to the issue of what not to do with back pain. The first thing you have to do when you experience your first episode of back pain is to stop doing exercises like crunches, sit-ups, back extensions, and twisting exercises. So basically exercises that force movement of the spine under a load. Stop wiggling your spine around. It's that wiggling that usually leads to strains and back tweaks. That way you're just introducing your back to additional unnecessary stress. And it is unnecessary because these exercises do not accomplish anything that you're not already getting from your squats and deadlifts, which you should be doing anyway in the first place. Contrary to common belief, you don't strengthen anything with these exercises because the load and therefore stress that you can apply with them is not sufficient to produce a strength adaptation. Also, all that stress is focused on the spine itself and its joints, whereas in squats and deadlifts, it is more distributed throughout many elements of your entire musculoskeletal system. And while doing them, you're not wiggling your spine around, but instead train it in a stable, strong, isometric position. At the same time, you're also practicing proper movement patterns That way, decreasing your risk of accidental injury or tweak in your daily activities even further. Simply learn how to control and maintain stable back position and don't wiggle it unnecessarily. More tips on that you're gonna find in this video. Now look and you tell me, what does this exercise strengthen that this does not? At the beginning of the video, I said I wanted to talk about studies a little bit later. Well, now you have the answer to why studies haven't found the core strengthening exercises to be effective in treating back pain. Because in the scientific world, exercises like these are considered to be core strengthening exercises. But they don't strengthen anything, so obviously they won't help with anything. The fundamental principles of logic state that any conclusion drawn from false information cannot be valid. So if the conclusion about core strengthening exercises not being effective in treating back pain is based on studies in which they didn't strengthen the core muscles or any other muscles for that matter, then that conclusion is garbage. Deadlifts and squats are proper exercises that strengthen your core muscles and all the other muscles on top of that, and they are effective in treating back pain. And this also comes from simple experience. And this is also, by the way, a significant difference between what works theoretically in scientific papers and what actually works in practice. Having dealt with hundreds of people with back pain, we see the same scenario every time. They start training their deadlift, they do it regularly, gradually adding weight, getting their back strong, and within few weeks, their back pain is gone. Every single time. Sometimes the pain may not be completely gone, but it's at least very much alleviated, or at the very least, much less bothersome in the wake of newly acquired strength. And that's still a huge success. And this isn't only my experience. I'm not the only practitioner who uses these methods and gets that kind of results. Starting Strength Franchise is a good example here, just to name one. This is the phenomenology. This is what happens. And if some study suggests otherwise, it's not consistent with what objectively takes place in reality, then that means there's something wrong with the study. And that's it. You have it all. Degenerative changes of the spine are something that every one of us has or will have, therefore it's normal. Do not let yourself be talked into back surgery simply based on your MRI results. Surgery should only be reserved for the most extreme of cases. Avoid pointless core exercises that don't accomplish anything, and instead start training your deadlift and finally get your back strong. If you're experiencing a very severe, debilitating back pain and you're unable to perform a complete correct deadlift at this point, it may be a good idea to seek help of an experienced professional who will help you get started with your training. There is always a point at which you can start. As always, you can contact me from my Facebook page, link in the video description. If you find this information helpful, be sure to leave a like and to subscribe, as it is the best way to help the channel grow. Stay strong and pain-free, and until next time.